The captain of the ship stood at the helm, his weathered face creased with worry. The sea, usually his solace, was now his tormentor. The wind, once a playful companion, had turned into a menacing bully. For 3 days, they'd been battling the elements, and the crew of the Albatross were starting to lose hope. It all began when the Albatross left Bristol on September 23, 1708, laden with wine, sugar, and the dreams of fortune. Among its cargo was Captain William Dampierre, who, despite his noble birth, had chosen the life of a privateer over that of a gentleman. He was part owner of the ship, along with John Quelch, a wealthy merchant. Their destination was the fabled island of Juan Fernandez, where they hoped to find the legendary silver and gold that lay hidden in its heart. For the first 2 weeks, the voyage was uneventful. The sea calm, the skies clear, the winds fair. But then the weather took a turn. Storms arose, waves crashed, and the Albatross tug's Studi began to creak under the assault of the angry ocean. Sailors prayed, sang, and toiled, but the storm showed no mercy. Then came the night that tried men's souls. A hurricane, fierce and unrelenting, struck the Albatross. Waves the size of mountains tossed the ship like a child's toy. Sails ripped, masts groaned, and the ship sprung a leak. As the Albatross battled the tempest, its crew fought for their lives. They bailed out water, patched up the holes, and somehow managed to keep the ship afloat. When the storm finally abated, the crew emerged from the wreckage of the Albatross, battered but alive. But their ordeal was far from over, for the hurricane had dislodged several of the ship's water tanks, leaving them without fresh water. Now, with the wind dying down, they could hear the mocking laughter of the waves, taunting them to drink their salty water. But it wasn't just thirst that threatened them. Hunger loomed next. With supplies washed away by the storm, they were forced to live off the meager rations they had left. But these, too, were not enough to keep their hunger at bay. Men started dropping like flies, succumbing to a terrible wasting disease brought on by starvation. As the sick grew in number, so did their fear. Whispers filled the night as men spoke of monstrous creatures that lurked in the depths, waiting to feast on sailors who dared to cross their path. Fear turned to panic when one night a monstrous shape rose from the sea, its eyes glowing like embers in the darkness. One of the sailors, driven mad by hunger and fear, cried out that it was a sea monster come to claim them as its prey. And yet, as if mocking their terror, the creature stayed in the water, never coming closer, never attacking. Every day that passed, the men aboard the Albatross became weaker. The strong now struggled to stand. The young dreamed of home, and the brave sought solace in the stars, hoping for a sign of salvation. One evening, a shout from the crow's nest cut through the air, and a cry echoed across the deck, bringing with it a surge of hope. Could this be Juan Fernandez, their promised land of riches? Or was it another cruel trick of the sea, another mirage to tantalize and torment them? They steered towards the distant speck on the horizon, hope fluttering in their chests like a wounded bird. As the ship drew closer, cheers erupted. It was an island, real and solid, rising majestically from the sea. But their joy was short-lived. The island, though beautiful, was uninhabited. No smoke curling from a chimney, no sound of human habitation. It was a deserted rock in the middle of the sea. Yet they anchored there, for even a deserted island was better than the endless expanse of the ocean. Relief washed over them as they set foot on the island, weak and emaciated, but grateful to be on solid ground. They explored the island, searching for fresh water, food, anything that could sustain them. They found fruit, sweet and succulent, and water, pure and refreshing. It was a paradise, untouched and generous. But paradise, too, has its demons. For though the island offered sustenance, it demanded a price. For 2 weeks, they feasted and rested, regaining some of their strength, but also forgetting their purpose. When they finally set sail again, it was with heavy hearts that they left the island, calling it their second Eden. But their return to the sea was not marked by calm. The winds were still rough, the waves still angry, and the men, though rested, were haunted by the specter of death that had stalked them so closely. For 40 days and nights, they battled the elements, their resolve tested by the very survival. Finally, on November They sighted land, the blessed shore that promised safety. Cheers echoed across the waves as they neared the shore. Was this the end of their ordeal? Would they see civilization again? Would they taste solid ground under their feet? But fate had other plans. For as they approached the shore, the wind shifted, turning from a helpful ally into a merciless jester. The ship, unable to withstand the sudden force of the wind, began to break apart. Sailors scrambled to save what they could, their hopes dashed against the rocks that now lined their path. Wheating an oar, the Albatross, once a proud vessel of exploration and greed, was nothing but a pile of driftwood on the cursed shore. And so ended the tale of the Albatross, a story of adventure and despair, of hope and loss. The men who survived the shipwreck were forced to walk along the shore, watching their ship become a prisoner of the sand and the sea. There were 16 survivors of the Albatross, but only 7 would make it off the island alive. Some perished due to injuries sustained during the wreck, while others succumbed to the same wasting disease that had plagued them on the ship. Yet others fell victim to the elements, their bodies ravaged by sun and wind, salt and sand. Of those who survived, some returned to England, forever marked by their ordeal. Others chose to stay on the island, finding solace in its solitude after the madness of the sea. And there were some, it was said, who disappeared into the island, their fates as mysterious as the island itself. But perhaps the greatest mystery was that of the island. Where exactly was it? Some believed it to be Juan Fernandez, but others claimed it was a different place altogether, a place known only to the sea and the sky. Back in England, news spread like wildfire. The Albatross was lost, its crew scattered, and the whispers grew louder. Was it the wrath of the sea, they asked, or was it something more, some curse that had befallen the ship and its greedy crew? Some blamed the captain, William Dampier, saying his ill-gotten gains had brought him ill fortune. Others blamed the ship itself, the Albatross, saying it was a vessel cursed to sail the seas forever without reaching shore. And still, others blamed the island, saying it was a demon's playground where men went to die. The truth, however, lay somewhere in between, lost in the mists of time. What became of the island, whether it was Juan Fernandez or some other forgotten place, is unknown. Whether it still stands in the vast expanse of the sea, mocking the ghosts of the Albatross, is anyone's guess. And as for the Albatross itself, the ship that was cursed to never reach shore, it lies in pieces on some forgotten beach, its bones picked clean by the relentless tide. Its journey may have ended in tragedy, but its story lives on, a tale whispered by the waves, carried by the wind and etched in the hearts of those who dared to dream of faraway shores. So here's to the Albatross, the ship that never reached shore, a toast to its crew, both living and dead, and to the mysteries of the sea that continue to captivate and terrify us to this day. Hey guys, thanks for watching.